The original idea for this video was to talk specifically on about time. But then I realized something: many films are, in one way or another, about time. Perhaps the most well-known example today isn't even a single film, but a director, Christopher Nolan, who explores time across his entire filmography. Tenet, for example, presents a war over time itself, over the order of the universe, over whether time and entropy can be reversed or not. At its core, the film suggests that Tenet, as an organization, exists to preserve the continuity between past, present, and future, and that we are meant to act as protagonists of our own lives within that structure. At the same time, one of the most popular story plot today, repeated countless times, is the one introduced by Groundhog Day. A story about a man trapped in time. And what's interesting is that Bill Murray's character is forced to relive the same day over and over again until he learns something essential, that even where he is, he can choose to be happy and do something good. That same dissatisfaction he had in the beginning of his story with the present moment also appears in Midnight in Paris, by Woody Allen. The protagonist longs for the past and lives in a kind of nostalgia, feeling out of place in his own time. But the deeper answer the film offers is that everyone feels that same dissatisfaction. Everyone wants to escape the present, precisely because the present can be hard or dissatisfying, but it is the only moment where life actually happens. And so the invitation is clear: we must learn to face the moment we are in. And that brings us to what may be the central idea of About Time. Because unlike the other films we've mentioned, this protagonist has the ability to freely revisit his past. He can go back, relive moments, and change what has already happened. And like the other films we mentioned, the core answer here is similar: we are called to take responsibility for our own lives, to become the protagonists of our story and to live the present well. As the protagonist himself says, we should live each day as if it were the last, as a moment to truly experience life, to enjoy it and consciously choose happiness. And perhaps this is the film's greatest strength. Because instead of focusing on something grand or heroic, it points to something much more ordinary: the development of a normal human life in the modern era. A young man leaves his parents' home, moves to a big city, begins working, suffers in this transition, faces challenges in his job and in his relationships, feels alone at times, and searches for someone to share life with. He may seem fragile, uncertain. But slowly, things begin to take shape. He is not changing the world. He is not a usual hero or a knight. But that's exactly the point. It's in these small moments, the ones we often overlook, that life truly happens. And it is precisely there that happiness can be found. If we accept, as the protagonist eventually does, that living in the present does not mean living without mistakes. On the contrary, mistakes, chaos, and imperfection are part of life itself. The unpredictability, the fatigue, the pressures of daily life, the small frustrations, dealing with children, paying bills, handling responsibilities, all of it can become something meaningful, even beautiful. And perhaps the greatest example of someone who lived through this, facing real hardship, is George Bailey, in Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. He lived a life that was, in many ways, the opposite of what he had dreamed of. At a certain point, his life even seems like a complete failure. He hasn't achieved his goals, has no money and no great accomplishments. Everything appears to have gone wrong. And yet, just like in the other films we've mentioned, the answer is the same for George and for us. We don't need a different life. We need a different way of seeing our life. If we learn to look differently at our routine, at our work, at the people around us, we begin to realize that the greatest gift may already be right in front of us. When we truly live the present, when we step outside of ourselves and stop living only inside our own thoughts, something changes. We begin to understand that a life of service, a life that goes beyond ourselves, transforms everything. And then the problems of this world no longer have the same weight. Because in the end, we are not just passing through random days. We are on a journey, one that points beyond this world. In other words, the big answer of movies about time perhaps is that we don't need more time to find a better life. and the present is not a problem to escape from, but rather, the only place where life, love, and meaning can truly exist.